was like, somebody hug him. Like, been through
That's
so
what we
much.
wanted. That's it.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Blurred Girl channel. I'm Karama Horn, aka the Blurred Girl. And today I have the pleasure of sharing with you an interview that I had with Brian Tyree Henry. Now, this is an interview that I had with him in November of last year about a quiet little movie called Causeway that garnered him an Oscar nomination. Causeway was directed by Tony Award-winning director Lila Neugebauer in her feature directorial debut, and stars Jennifer Lawrence alongside Henry as Lindsay, a soldier who's struggling to adjust to life after returning home to New Orleans with a traumatic brain injury. As she struggles through therapy, she becomes unlikely friends with James, played by Henry, an auto mechanic who's dealing with his own physical and mental trauma. Henry's exceptional performance earned him several awards and an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. So, Brian, you have had quite a couple of years. You ran from Godzilla. You fought a heist. I believe you also fought a blunted boar recently. And now we find you in a much quieter role in Causeway.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been something, right?
It has. Now, I read you and director Lila Neugebauer have known each other for a while.
We met at Yale. And I actually met her my first year in grad school, and I think, God, what was she? If there's three, I think she was a sophomore at undergrad. And so, like, at Yale School of Drama, you're constantly in rehearsals, you're doing plays. And I believe that she was an undergrad in English, and she was hard-headed and kept sneaking in our rehearsals and watching our plays. And I immediately just connected with her. We would literally walk around the campus of New Haven and smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, and talking shit about plays, just what we liked, what we wanted to see. She was a visionary then, she's a visionary now. And then when I graduated, I ended up doing stage in New York, and so did she. Once she graduated, and she became a well-known theater director, so I would see her around. I was like, when are we doing a play? I was like, we would always yell at each other, when are we gonna work together? So then flash, to 2019, and she's getting her first feature, and she calls me, and I immediately was like, yeah, I will happily go on this venture with you. Yeah, she's amazing.
So did you say yes before you saw the script, or did you see the script and then that just kind of solidified it for you?
I'm not gonna lie. I think I said yes before I saw the script. I think I did, because with Lila involved and with Jennifer Lawrence, who I'd been a fan of for a long time, I knew that this was a very independent drama that I hadn't seen Jennifer do in quite a long time, and so I was like, well, I would happily come back for that, reemergence of Jennifer coming back to this kind of simple storytelling, and then when I read the script, it was pretty sparse at the time. There wasn't a lot to it, which is what I loved about it. I really liked that there wasn't this overcomplication of storyline and conflict and exposition and everything. It was pretty simple, because when scripts are like that, that really means that the connection has to be there between the actors. It's really about the parts that you fill in with your relationship to each other. And I was excited to see how that was going to grow with Jennifer. I really wanted to see if it was possible to do that, and the end result, I think, showed that.
No, it absolutely did. I mean, every time you were on screen, I was like, somebody hug him. Been through
That's
so
what we
much.
wanted. That's it. Oh, I love that.
Now, your character, James Alcoin, like I said, has been through so much. Was it tough to immerse yourself in that, or were you just pulling from the world of 2020 to get into the character?
I'm gonna say both. Absolutely both. I was intimidated a bit, because in order to play a man like James, you can't hide from what you have lost, or you can't hide from what grief you've dealt with or what guilt you've dealt with, in order to, I think, play him fully. So we're meeting this man that, was born and raised in New Orleans and has suffered a great loss, not only physically by losing his leg, but the death of his nephew, and in that essence, a rejection from his family because of that loss. I've always been fascinated by people who grieve and choose to stay in the same place. There's something that is amazing about grief, is that we can sometimes make prisons out of our grief. And so I felt like we were meeting James in that particular place. Here's a man who suffered a terrible loss in a car accident, but chooses to work at an auto body shop. You know, here's a man who literally has lost his leg, but hasn't changed the rickety stairs that lead up to his house, who doesn't really go to PT, who hasn't moved from the home at all. And and I feel like in essence, when people are like that, there is a huge need for compassion, right? There's a huge need for a connection. Sometimes they feel like they deserve to be in that place, and don't really feel like there's any way through. And so what I also saw between him and Lindsay was that there was this thing called trauma bonding that was starting to happen, which I think a lot of us went through in 2020.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, we were given such languages like shelter in place, lockdown, all this thing, and like being isolated. And then that caused you to kind of have to go through your trauma alone until you met somebody and was like, oh, wait, hold on, we can do this together. The trap that trauma bonding tends to do, though, is that you don't think about how to get over it. You sometimes become stuck in the trauma drama. And I didn't want that for James and Lindsay, and neither did Jen or Lila. We were like, we don't want it to be this thing of these people who are kind of leeching off of each other's trauma. We want to see the other side of it. It's so rare that you get to see the other side of it. It's so rare that you get to see a connection of like, oh, wait, there's a possibility of something. We aren't just our wounds, And so um we decided to sit down again after 2020, because like we did one version in 2019, then 2020 shook us all to hell, and then we were like, no, we have to go back. Like, there's something else that has to happen, especially because of the connection between Jen and I in our personal lives. You know what I mean? Like, we discovered a connection with each other where it was like, oh, it's that simple. We actually have more in common than I thought. We actually call each other out on our shit. We actually talk about the things that are going on in the streets that really make us upset and that we feel like deserve change. And also, let's have a burger while we're doing it. You know what I mean? And so we discovered that and wanted to go back and showcase that, because we wanted the audience to really feel that there was a connection, that there was a friendship, like that they were watching the blossoming of a friendship happening right before them, regardless of like how somber it may feel, the stillness of them being with each other, the trust that was starting to happen. And so, yeah, like it's also interesting to do a movie like this in an area like New Orleans, which is an area that is not um, a stranger to what it's like to deal with loss and grief, but also at the same time, the most resilient land I've ever seen in my life, and also the land that knows how to rebuild out of tragedy, period. Like, that's just what it does. And so when you have these two characters that are from an area like that, we kind of wanted to embody that resilience of New Orleans in it and of itself. That's why there's so much water, if you notice, within the movie. That's why we named it Causeway. The Causeway is like a 26, 29 stretch of road that's over a body of water that has no exits. You can't turn around. You can't go back. You can only go forward. And we felt like that was such a huge metaphor for grief. And we felt like that was such a huge metaphor for connection and recovery and a life thereafter. So I just want to make sure that I give so much thanks to New Orleans, because like, I mean, to be able to play somebody that is from there, I really wanted to make sure that that essence of him came through. And I also wanted them to see that there's another side, there's a way to connect, and there's a way to, you don't always have to hide your scars.
Absolutely. And you did a fabulous, amazing job. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. That means a lot coming from you.